we see the transfer portal is blowing up. Even Michigan had a couple guys, some younger
Got about 10
defenders.
more minutes, by the way. Hit
Cool.
10 more minutes. Okay.
So yeah, perfect. Two topics. So transfer portal's going crazy. The big personality or player that's in it right now is Caleb Williams, and from the talks of it, you hear, and granted this is rumor and speculation, but you hear people are talking about him potentially going to the highest NIL bidder. Do you think that Michigan should do more in the NIL world as far as, and I'm not saying, a bidding war or anything like that on a player, but just doing a better job of setting their players up for potential NIL, opportunities?
100%. Anything that your university and your program can do to appeal to higher caliber players, you should do, as long as it's within the rules of the game, right? For years, Michigan's prided themselves of being a clean program. Well, guess what? Now you can add some incentive for these players to come play for you in a way that is clean. So 100% they need to be doing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But let's be honest, Caleb Williams is going to USC. That's just what I think, and it is what it is. And I said that from the moment that Lincoln Riley said he was going to USC. And he said, "Well, yeah, I'm not going nowhere. Hook 'em." No, I'm sorry. That's
Boomer.
wrong.
That's their thing. Boomer.
What would
Boomer
the Sooners
Sooner.
say?
Yep. No, I agree. I think it's just a new landscape of college football. You can't, and it's kind of odd to say, but you can't just sit in the past and think that you can do things that you've always done and going to get the same results when the landscape has changed. I look at it in a similar way to spread offense and tempo. When Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M beat Nick Saban and Alabama, we really started to see it, and because I think that was 2012, but we really started to see that spread offense, that tempo really make huge waves in college football. And the
Right.
teams that made the transition to embrace that, you see, had success and were able to win games and still win at a high level. Whereas some of the teams that stayed in their realm of, oh, yeah, no, we're just going to do power football and run the ball. A team, unfortunately, that comes to mind is Iowa, where they are just not going to, they're just not going to play football the way
Leave
that everybody
Corey
else
alone,
does.
man. Leave
I
poor
said
Corey
nothing about
alone.
Corey. He's a sweet guy, sweet guy. But I think it's the same thing with NIL. You're not going to be able to just sit and do what you've always done and think that you're going to be successful. Like your guys are going to pass you up. I mean, you look at Quinn Ewers. I mean, he got what, $1 million deal when he went to Ohio State, and he didn't even
Hasn't
play
played
it
a snap.
down, and he's
Didn't play a
gone
snap.
back home to Texas now. So
All that oil money.
yeah, he's going to make a lot of it. Last thing, and maybe it's a topic that will hit some hot buttons, but hindsight's always 2020. So when you look back at this season, do you think, is there any hindsight on the JJK decision? And what I mean by that is, do you think that Michigan would have been better off with JJ starting from day one versus Cade?
You need to add, for me to answer that question, give that question the proper fairness. I need you to add something to the end of that question.
I'll
And
do
it
no
needs to-
such thing.
Oh,
No, I'm
okay.
just playing. Go ahead.
You see, got people. The reason why this works is because this is really authentically how me and Desmond are. Like we
Yes.
will literally sit in cubicles at work and like right next to each other, and I'll be on Desmond's left. He'll just turn to me like, I was thinking, what's going on with Caleb Williams in the portal? Where you think he's going? It'll be like random 130, and he'll just like, where you think Caleb Williams is going?
Mhm.
Anyway, to answer your question, Des,
So what do you need me to put at the end of that to give it its just due?
I will end it with for Michigan to have gone further in the season or for the betterment of the future,
Okay.
right? So I think for the betterment of the future, Michigan would have been better off starting JJ at the beginning of this season for the betterment of the future. For this year, I still thought to get to where they got, even to still get past Georgia this past New Year's Eve, Cade was the right choice at this point, right? More seasoned, better decision maker, a little bit more polished. But so that's how I answer that. And I think you're gonna and luckily Michigan has a very, very soft schedule to start next season. So JJ will have or whoever starts, kind of it's not where we shouldn't people say, don't just assume JJ's gonna be on. Okay, fine. If JJ was to start, if he was to take over and start next season, he has enough ramp up time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say that wasn't the case, that you could have been putting a kid, even though he may be more talented, in a non-favorable position where he has to play well from the get-go and he's just not ready, right? In terms of being polished enough. So that's how I answer that. Long term, JJ should have started. Short term, it was right to go with Cade.
Yeah, I agree. And next season, here's your Michigan's first 3 games. It is a gauntlet. You kick off at home September 3rd with the Colorado State Rams. Week after that, you kick off at home against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors.
Wow.
And the third game, which is really a doozy, you kick off at home against the Yukon Huskies. And if you want to throw the fourth game in there, you kick off September 24th at home against the Maryland Terrapins. So your first 4 games, you don't leave the state, you don't leave the big house,
I'm
and
sorry.
you play what we think will be some pretty bad teams.
Wait a minute. Well, wait a minute. I just think you said the first 3 games. I know they're all at home. We know Michigan. Easy joke, and this is true. We never leave home in September.
Correct.
Never leave home in September.
Don't go home
right?
without it.
Right. Matter of fact, like the bus getting to like the airport literally does not run like until October. Like they just chill. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The first Colorado State to Hawaii to Yukon, which is a albatross of a disaster right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
then you get Maryland.
Yep. And then we get Maryland. Look, man.
But after that, you have the scary prospect of going to Iowa on October 1st. And I know that's a touchy thing.
Touchy. Of course, when we playing that one up, baby. You know what, Michigan in there, I can't, how Michigan ran a score up on Iowa doing a Big Ten title game.
I'm sure Iowa won't forget, so they're going to do their best to beat you 21-10.
Oh, yeah. Great. No, man, it should help with that very, 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 very vanilla season to start, next year. But and that will help, and that's just the main thing, man. Like if you're gonna go with JJ, hey, just make sure that you use that time. The main thing that I guess that we can agree on is if you go with JJ, do not waste those first 3 games. I'll say 4 weeks. Don't waste them. Especially if you got to go at Iowa, a very respectable place to play at. I would assume a night game, whatever it is. We can just agree to disagree. Don't waste that time. Don't be, ground and pound. Let JJ be JJ.
But are we gonna end up with the same cycle that we had this season, where week after week after week, our first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we're like, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're just running the ball. We're just running the ball.
Bro, we're gonna after the Hawaii game, we're gonna have Michigan's gonna win 65-3, and we're talking a stat line of Michigan 400 rushing yards, 125 passing yards. And it's like, what are we doing? Hawaii has a trash pass defense. Why are we not? This is what JJ is great at. Let him rip it. I'm gonna lose my mind. I will lose my mind if we just waste, especially if JJ started. If it's K, I'm indifferent. But if it's JJ, like I swear, if we waste those first 3 weeks against, like we're gonna hear, guess what? We don't have to hear. Oh, well, Washington has some of the best corners in the country.
Corners. Yeah.
No, we don't gotta hear none of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, please, just do what you gotta do.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. I pass out. So, had we done that this year, same thing would have happened. We'd have passed out. So is what it is. But yeah,
You guys shut up. Just enjoy the season and enjoy the win. It's like, okay, thank you very much. You guys are never satisfied. What do you want us to do? Throw for 300 yards? No.
Absolutely no. That's actually yes, that is what I want them to do. Throw for 300 yards. Yes, I would like that. Well, because I think next year, and we could wrap, but next year, I think we can all agree that the defense is going to take some type of step backwards with losing Aiden, losing Ojabo. I think Ross might be gone as well. You're losing multiple guys, high level guys on that defense. I would think to balance that out, you would lean a little more on that offense where, your quarterback is a little more dynamic. Ronnie Bell's coming back. You got Andrell Anthony. I think Cornelius Johnson, not sure about what that situation is there, but Donovan Edwards. Like you've got some talent on offense, and I would think that's the way that the 2022 Michigan Wolverines would look. But that's just me looking at things on paper and not being at practice at all. So I don't know.
No, I mean, I think that the offense has a chance to be absolutely the strength of this team next year, especially if JJ is who we think he can be, right? I think one thing that's very evident, I know we're trying to wrap, but is that the kid has all the tools, but I thought Kurt Hershey made a good point. It's not just about the tools, but can he also have the composure as well, right? Can he have the moxie that the really good quarterbacks need? And if he can, then I'll put it this way: there are weapons, including Donovan Edwards, on this Michigan team going to next year that we could see a potentially historic type of offensive output. I think they're that balanced, like in terms of overall weapons. So there's a chance this thing could really pop next year. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, and we'll see what the offense looks like, but early on, I would put Ronnie Bell as a dark horse, potentially breaking some Michigan receiving records. We'll see, but like I said, I think in at least 3 or 4 games next year, you're gonna have to score some points, like to win the game, like not like Iowa where it's just like we're better, so we're dominating. But I think you're gonna need some 42 to 40s or 32. Yeah, I think you're going to need some games like that.
I think Donovan Edwards. Now this is a hot take. I think Donovan Edwards, before he leaves the University of Michigan, has the potential. I've seen enough about this with this kid in both the running game and the receiving game that he can have a. Why am I drawing a name? Blank.
McCaffrey.
McCaffrey, McCaffrey type. Christian McCaffrey type output for at least one season at Michigan. Like he's dangerous, equally dangerous running the ball and receiving. I mean, I haven't seen a Michigan. I don't know if you can recall, Desmond, a Michigan running back in recent history that can line up at receiver and can beat corners. And like he's literally they can place him anywhere. And he's equally dangerous. So no, man, I think this can be special.
Agreed.